The 15th year since I took Marco in. The 10th year of our love. He was finally ready to get married. But the name on the marriage certificate was not mine. It was Selena, the only daughter of his mentor. I demanded to know why Marco was treating me like this. Marco replied in a firm tone, "I will only give you a de facto marriage. But the position of wife must belong to Selena. In that case, I wish you two a lifetime of happiness, and I wish myself better love ahead." Chapter 1. Hello. Is this mess, Selena? Mr. Marco registered a marriage with us, and due to certain reasons, we need to verify some information with you. I froze. Marco was indeed my boyfriend, but Selena was the only daughter of his late teacher. I reminded them, "Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Didn't Marco write Diana on the marriage application form? Or rather, why wasn't I there when he filled out the application form? Didn't both people have to be present together to get a marriage certificate?" But the person on the other end said, "There's no mistake." Marco even specifically reminded us that the name was Selena. He filled out several application forms. I'm sorry. Maybe the number was written down wrong. The other application forms all have a different number. It was probably Marco's mistake. Sorry for disturbing you. The person hung up. It wasn't until I heard the busy tone that I came back to my senses. Vaguely, I realized that the name Marco had written on the marriage application form was not mine. He had never planned to marry me at all. If only one form had been filled out wrong, that would have been understandable. But so many forms were all wrong. I clenched my fists, but my body still would not stop trembling. So it had finally come? Was I really going to lose Marco at last? This long-distance marathon of a love story had finally produced a winner. Sadly, it wasn't me. Clearly, the signs of this had already started to show over the past few years, and they had become harder and harder for me to ignore. But I was unwilling to give up on this relationship. Back then, Marco had nothing. His biological parents had died in a car accident. None of his relatives had been willing to help him. I was the one who picked him up from downstairs and begged my parents to take Marco in. The 15-year-old boy pressed his thin lips together tightly, his eyes red. He hugged me hard and said he would repay me. I never asked him to repay me. I just felt that he really needed me. When he was 20, he confessed his feelings to me. Marco said he would spend the rest of his life treating me well. But that same year, my father met with an accident, while my mother and I were still drowning in grief. Marco proposed dropping out of school to go into business. He left so decisively that he gave me no room to persuade him to stay. After my father passed away, my mother could no longer afford tuition for both of us. I knew he was being considerate of my mother. Once he left, 10 years passed. Whenever we had time, we would text each other, sharing the things we saw and heard in our daily lives. I had always regarded Marco as an inseparable part of my life. At this moment, my heart was bleeding, but I had no way of pretending that nothing had happened. I sent him a message. The words on the screen stabbed at my eyes. During this period, I had been the only one sending him messages. Occasionally, he would reply with a single word, busy. Clearly, he didn't say much, but I always felt as if I were disturbing him. On one hand, I felt so guilty that I didn't want to bother him. On the other hand, I still wanted to talk to him, because I loved him and wanted to be close to him. My eyes burned with soreness. There were some things I had to ask clearly. I asked him, "Did you write the wrong name on the marriage application?" The marriage registry office called me. I had thought the message I sent would sync without a trace as usual. Unexpectedly, Marco replied. Chapter 2. Diana. I didn't write the wrong name. You and I already count as husband and wife in every way that matters. Whether the name on the marriage certificate is yours or not makes no difference. In my heart, the position of wife belongs to you. My mind went completely blank. I couldn't even understand what he meant. So what are you planning to do? Commit bigamy? Or turn me, your girlfriend, into the mistress in your marriage with Selena? I suppressed the ache tearing through me and finished typing those words with trembling fingers. Marco took a while before replying. Typing, then pausing, typing, then pausing. Hope rose inside me, so he really did have his reasons. As long as he explained everything clearly, I could let this go. He could just rewrite the marriage application. Silently, I prayed he would give me a reasonable explanation. But in the end, he only sent a few short words. I can't wrong my teacher, and I have to protect Selena. My tears fell onto the phone screen, blurring the words. The pain in my chest was sharp and piercing. I closed my eyes, wiped away my tears, my head throbbing, but I still forced myself to stay calm. I asked him, "What about me? You can't wrong your teacher. You can't be unfilial to your teacher's wife. And you can't stop doting on your little sister Selena. So I'm just supposed to wait for you for 10 years? Marco, what exactly do you take me for? Was I a rope thrown down in your moment of despair? Or was I nothing more than a tool you used to keep yourself going?" Coldness rose from the soles of my feet straight into my heart, until I was trembling all over. No, that couldn't be. After so many years together, if it had all been an act. How could anyone keep it up for so long? Marco didn't explain any further. He only said, "When I get back, I'll give you an explanation." When I tried to send him anything else, I realized he had blocked me. At that moment, I hurt so much that I went numb. Sure enough, the people closest to you always know exactly how to wound you the deepest. Again and again, I scrolled through our chat history. 10 years. There were far too many memories. But the more I remembered, the harder it became to fall asleep. That whole night, I couldn't sleep. Had Marco and I really come to an end? But if it didn't end, then what else was there? Was this kind of battered, humiliated love really what I needed? Chapter 3. A month later, Marco came back. The moment Mom heard that Marco was coming back, she aired out his quilt for him. She made the dishes he liked to eat. We waited for him at home. But by 11 at night, he still had not returned. Mom could not hold out any longer and went to sleep first. Without any food in my stomach, my body felt cold. I sat at the table, staring at the call log. I had called him many times, but none of the calls went through. I took a deep breath and thought I would call one last time. If it still didn't go through, the call connected. In surprise, I said, "Marco." A girl's soft, sweet voice came from the other end. "Marco is taking a shower. What do you need from him? We met the parents today, and he drank quite a lot. If it's nothing important, could you talk to your brother tomorrow instead?" Brother? Marco had labeled me in his phone as younger sister? So 10 years of love had earned me the identity of younger sister. In a hoarse voice, I said, "It's nothing." I'm hanging up. But how could it be nothing? I covered my head and cried silently. I did not even dare cry out loud, afraid Mom would hear and worry about me. At that moment, my heart was split open, and the one holding the knife was my childhood sweetheart, whom I had loved for more than 10 years. That night felt like a nightmare. The next day, Marco finally came back. The first thing he did when he entered was greet Mom, and Mom answered him in a lukewarm tone. She had probably sensed that something was wrong with me, so she had lost her warmth toward Marco as well. What was reheated on the table was yesterday's food. Marco froze when he saw the dishes, then took a bowl and chopsticks and sat down to eat. Only when Mom saw him eating in big mouthfuls did her expression soften a little, but he clearly did not like eating leftovers. Doing this was only a way to lessen his own guilt. Mom did not ask much. After the meal, she tidied up and went downstairs to exercise. Marco helped carry the bowls and plates into the kitchen, while I slowly washed them. He looked at me and leaned closer, wanting to hug me. I dodged him. Marco pressed his lips together, and the vein at his temple twitched. His voice carried exhaustion and disappointment as he said, "Diana, I thought you would understand." My eyes heated up, and I asked back in grievance, "How am I supposed to understand? Go out on the street and ask any girl how she would feel about her boyfriend getting a marriage certificate with another woman." As soon as I finished that last sentence, tears fell uncontrollably. Marco panicked for a moment. He took a tissue to wipe my tears. He let out a heavy sigh and said, "I grew up with you. You should know my heart. My teacher died protecting me, and the only thing I can do for him now is give Selena a title, so the people around them won't bully her and her mother." My heart suddenly ached. I could understand that he respected his teacher, but had he ever thought that Mom and I were vulnerable too? How were we any different from Selena and her mother? After waiting all night, I had finally received my sentence. In the end, this relationship was my mistake. I put down the bowl and chopsticks and said coldly, Marco, let's break up. Marco suddenly went rigid. Chapter 4. Marco gritted his teeth and lowered his head to look at me. After taking several deep breaths, he asked, Are you serious? You know perfectly well that what I feel for Selena is only responsibility, not love. The only person I've ever loved, from beginning to end, is you. Even so, you still want to break up? He put heavy emphasis on the word responsibility. How laughable. He felt responsibility toward Selena, but not toward me? I looked at him, wanting to see him clearly, but what stood between us wasn't only Selena anymore. I couldn't see him clearly now. When he saw that I still said nothing, Marco couldn't help adding, Don't overthink this. I only love you. I'll still have a wedding with you. Everyone will know you're my wife. It's just that there won't be a marriage certificate. Nothing between us will change. But I couldn't keep lying to myself. Because from the moment his teacher's wife and daughter appeared, something between us truly had changed in a way that could never be undone. A change that even he himself had failed to notice. I let out a mocking laugh and said, Bigamy, how dare you? Don't you care about your future anymore, Marco? By now he was already the CEO of a listed company. I didn't believe for a second that he didn't care about his future. He had fought for that with his own blood and sweat. I knew you loved me. Then let's do this for now, okay? I'll register the marriage with my junior first. Just to protect her and her mother. My teacher's wife already said that once Selena's job is stable, we'll get divorced. It'll only be a few years. You already waited 10 years. 1 or 2 more won't make a difference, right? My heart seemed to stop for an instant, then began pounding frantically. The Marco in front of me now felt like a stranger. He was nothing like the Marco who once promised me that he would never let me suffer. Once I've repaid this debt of gratitude, I'll spend the rest of my life with you. I knew that no matter what I said, he wouldn't hear any of it. But it didn't matter anymore, because we were never going to get married. Just then, his phone rang. I saw the name Selena, and he shot me a wary glance. Then he took the phone to the balcony to answer. I didn't know what the person on the other end had said. But Marco only replied with a single okay. Then he came over and tried to hug me. When I dodged him, his voice turned cold and hard. I still have some things to take care of today. When I'm done, I'll take you out for a meal. After saying that, he turned and left. I sank down weakly into a crouch on the floor, clutching my head, thinking over everything. Where had it all gone wrong? Or was it simply that our love had never been strong enough to survive a test? Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and my neighbor's anxious voice came through. Diana, this is bad. Your mother has collapsed. I shot to my feet so suddenly that my vision blacked out for a second. Fear flooded my heart. Mom. I only have Mom now. No, I absolutely cannot lose her. Chapter 5. The ambulance quickly took Mom to the hospital. Mom had already woken up on the way and kept insisting that she was fine. But I insisted on taking her to the hospital for an examination. While we were having blood drawn, we ran into Selena. That girl, whenever Marco came back, would always stick to him. And I, his girlfriend, had to give way every single time. If Selena liked something to eat, I was not allowed to touch it. If Selena liked a certain style of clothes, I was not allowed to wear anything of the same type. Marco had turned all his guilt into pampering for Selena. Half of the salary he earned went to her and her mother. And at this moment, when she saw me, she looked like a victorious fox. Diana, why are you at the hospital too? Don't tell me you followed Marco here? And you even brought Auntie along? Marco and I are just here for our premarital checkup. You're not seriously making such a huge fuss over this, are you? Does Marco have no freedom at your house? Mom was stunned by Selena's words. She looked at me and frowned as she asked, Diana, what does she mean? What does she mean by, Auntie? I mean Marco and I are getting married. You absolutely have to come to our wedding. The examination slip in Mom's hand dropped to the floor with a slap. What? Of course she knew about Marco and me. Marco and I had never thought of hiding our relationship from Mom. Mom had tacitly approved of it too. I tried to calm Mom. Mom, listen to me. It's not like that. Diana, You're not still hoping Marco will marry you, are you? What do you even have that compares to me? You're older than me, and uglier than me. If I were Marco, I wouldn't choose you either. Mom could not bear hearing anyone talk about me like that. She rushed forward and slapped Selena across the face. It happened so suddenly that I barely had time to react. By the time I did react, Mom had already been shoved away hard by Marco. Auntie, please show some respect. When Mom came to her senses, she stepped forward again and slapped Marco too. How dare you? How could you? Do you know what my family has sacrificed for you? You ungrateful wretch. Mom bent over, clutching her chest in anger. I hurried to support her swaying body. Mom, please, stop talking. Marco and I have already broken up. Whoever he marries has nothing to do with me anymore. Mom, let's go. I was practically begging Mom, even if I had lost. I did not want to keep being pointed at and judged like this. Besides, what was the point of arguing over who was right and who was wrong? A relationship that could not be restored would not come back no matter how much was said. Wah, Marco. I really just came over to say hello to Auntie. I accidentally mentioned the premarital checkup. And she thought I stole you away from Diana. I can understand Auntie, but Marco and I really aren't what you think. That's enough. I shouted at Selena. Even at a time like this, she was still making things worse. Marco's cold, sharp gaze swept over me, with a trace of mockery on his thin lips. He said, "Have Auntie apologized to Selena, and we'll let this matter go." Mom stared at Marco in disbelief. She let out a cold laugh. What did you say? You want me to apologize to this little vixen? Is she worthy of it? Selena said through tears. Marco, it's fine, even though Auntie was wrong. I won't hold it against her. And Auntie is an elder. If someone absolutely has to apologize, then Diana can just simply say sorry to me. I looked at Selena coldly and asked back, how have I wronged you? Selena looked at Marco with a hurt expression. Marco's gaze on me turned even colder. Apologize, or I call the police. Your choice. My heart plunged into an icy abyss. Chapter 6. Mom lowered the hand that had been clutching her chest. With a mocking smile, she said, Marco, you've really grown into something, haven't you? Fine. Call the police. I'll wait right here for them to come arrest me. A crowd had already gathered around us, all pointing fingers at me and Mom. No, seriously, like mother like daughter. How can they hit someone and still refuse to apologize? Are they really that bold? Exactly. This is a hospital. There are cameras everywhere. They're really not afraid of being taken in by the police? Or do they have powerful backing? Selena cried and said, Auntie, I know Uncle was a police officer before he passed away. Selena, shut up. How dare she bring up my father? Marco stood in front of Selena and threatened coldly. You probably don't want Uncle to be unable to rest in peace, do you? Suddenly, Mom's eyes rolled back and she fainted. Selena said in a low voice, pretending to faint is way too cheap. Marco, I don't want the apology anymore. Tell Auntie to get up. I held Mom in my arms and shouted toward the crowd. Somebody help! My mom fainted. Please save my mom. A doctor came over, but someone blocked him. Don't bother with them. They're faking it. They hit someone, refused to apologize, and now they're pretending to faint. I looked at Marco and asked in a hoarse voice, you also think Mom is pretending? She already fainted once this morning. But Marco frowned and didn't believe me. Diana, when I left this morning, Auntie was clearly fine. The accusing voices around us only grew louder. Even the doctor started wavering. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, they were full of coldness. I didn't look at Marco again. Instead, I said to Selena, I'm sorry. My mom shouldn't have hit you. I'm apologizing to you on her behalf. Please forgive her. Diana, don't say that. I won't hold it against her. Marco, you're in the military. It wouldn't look good if someone filmed this. Let's go first, okay? After saying that, Selena took Marco's hand. Marco only stiffened for a moment when he saw that I didn't even look his way, and then looked at the marks on Selena's face. He stopped hesitating and left with her. Can somebody please help me? My mom really fainted. Please, Please believe me. My voice was barely a voice anymore. Then, in the middle of my cries for help, a doctor suddenly pushed his way out of the crowd. After checking Mom's condition, he shouted, "Quick! The patient is in critical condition. Take her to the operating room immediately." More doctors rushed over, and Marco, far off in the distance, only glanced once in our direction. Selena said nervously, "Could something really have happened to Auntie?" Marco replied, "Definitely not. Diana's mom has always been in good health." Selena, "Don't meet with them alone again in the future." As far as Marco was concerned, what happened today was my mother's fault. But at the root of it all, it was because he hadn't explained things clearly. He wanted to find time to explain everything to my mother. He didn't want Selena to be dragged down because of him. But thinking of my attitude, he couldn't help feeling irritated. Selena hooked her arm through Marco's and acted coquettishly. "Okay, I'll listen to everything you say." But Marco only gently pulled his arm away and said flatly, "Let's go." A flicker of disappointment passed through Selena's eyes. She picked up her phone and sent a text. Very soon, Marco's phone rang. Marco had already been in a foul mood, but when he saw the caller's name, he hesitated for a few seconds before answering. "Marco, am I disturbing you and Selena? I fell, and my heart feels uncomfortable. Could you come back right now?" Marco didn't hesitate any longer. "Don't panic. Teacher's wife, we'll come back immediately." A triumphant smile rose on Selena's lips. Then she hurried off with Marco. As she glanced at the hospital bed carrying my mother and the doctors pushing it away, a vicious glint flashed through her eyes. Chapter 7. After Mom was pushed into the operating room, the critical condition notice was handed to me. I could barely stay on my feet, and a nurse beside me held me up. "Ma'am, you have to stay strong. Your mother is not out of danger yet." With red eyes, I asked the doctor, "Excuse me, what exactly is wrong with my mother?" "It's a very serious heart condition. But don't worry, a specialist came to our hospital today. I already called him. As long as he comes over, your mother can still be saved." I bowed to the doctor in thanks. If my mother's health could be exchanged for something of mine, I would give anything. The operating room light stayed on the whole time. Then Marco arrived. When he saw me only staring blankly at the operating room, he immediately frowned. "Diana, do you think this is funny? Who are you waiting for here? Don't tell me Auntie is in the operating room. Even faking an illness should have its limits." I turned my head toward him mechanically, not understanding what he meant. "Having Auntie pretend to have a heart attack and run wild in the operating room. Is this how you're trying to make me come back?" My heart died completely, beyond all hope. I glared at him as if I were looking at an enemy and said through gritted teeth, "Get out! I don't want to see you again." Because I was using so much force, blood slid straight from the corner of my mouth. Marco's pupils contracted. My rejection and disgust seemed to make him angry. It was clearly Auntie who was wrong. "You can't just take Auntie's side because you're her daughter. Diana, you weren't like this before." I looked at him with red eyes and let out a cold laugh. "That's right. It's because I used to meddle too much that I got involved with you. Marco, I regret it." Marco suddenly clenched his fists. For the first time, he saw hatred on my face. "Really? I'm begging you. Don't appear in front of me, okay? We're over already." I looked at Marco hysterically, but it was as if he could not understand. He lowered his head and said, "What's the point of saying that on purpose? Diana, you clearly know I love you. I'll wait for you to think it through yourself." I closed my eyes and turned my head away, no longer looking at him. A moment later, the doors of the operating room opened. The doctor looked at me and said with regret, "I'm sorry, ma'am." My legs gave out and I fell to the floor. Looking at him, I asked, "Wasn't there supposed to be a specialist? Why is it still not working?" The doctor sighed. "A patient came to the hospital and specifically demanded that my teacher go over there. If my teacher can come back now, it might still be in time. But the other side has connections. I'm afraid we can't afford to wait." Struggling to get up, I asked him, "Who is it? Tell me, I'll go beg him." When I heard the name Marco, I almost did not react. Only then did I remember. Marco was no longer the penniless boy he had been 10 years ago. Now he sat in the position of president, with power in his hands. But why had he turned the power my mother and I had once helped him obtain into a blade pointed at my mother? I staggered toward the room of Selena's mother. Sure enough, the room was crowded with people. Marco's teacher's widow lay on the bed with a rosy complexion. She did not look critically ill at all. I burst into the room and looked at them anxiously. Who is Dr. Gabriel? Please, save my mother. Dr. Gabriel turned to look at me and said, I'm Dr. Gabriel. Alex called me. Was it about your mother's surgery? Gabriel had also been dragged here with no way out. He was anxious too, but someone had taken away his phone, so he had no way to do anything, and no strength left either. Yes, it's my mother. Please come with me and take a look. No! Selena shouted at me sharply. She rushed over and, with red eyes, berated me. Diana, you're terrifying. You clearly know my mother's heart isn't well, and you still want to take away the doctor who could save her life. What are you trying to do? Do you want to see my mother have an accident that badly? I shouldn't be marrying Marco. I'm begging you, don't hurt my mother. I won't marry Marco anymore, okay? Even if my mother and I are bullied. It doesn't matter, as long as my mother is healthy. She broke down in tears. I was too anxious to say more to her and was about to pull Dr. Gabriel away. Marco's teacher's widow said weakly, Forget it, Selena. I'm fine. Since Miss Diana wants to vent her anger, I can give the doctor to her mother. It's just that, Miss Diana, I beg you, after I'm gone, can you please not make things difficult for Selena? I'm begging you. As she spoke, she struggled to get up from the hospital bed and kneel to me. The mother and daughter left me feeling powerless. Just as I was about to argue with them, Marco said coldly, No one is leaving here today. Diana, you've really disappointed me. You clearly know teacher's wife has health problems, yet you still want to take the doctor away. How can you be as vicious as your mother? Weren't you the one who said you didn't want to see me before? Then leave now. I took several quick breaths and looked at Marco. He did not look like he was joking. In that instant, I panicked. Chapter 8. I stepped forward, grabbed Marco's clothes, and begged him, Marco, I'm begging you, please let the doctor save my mother, okay? If something happens to Selena's mom, I'll pay for it with my life. All right? I can't lose my mom. I dropped to my knees and clung to Marco's leg, pleading with him. Marco's pupils shrank, his fingertips trembled, but in the end, he still didn't reach out to help me. Selena looked at Marco nervously and said in a low voice, Marco, my mom is all I have left. My dad did that because of you. I can't lose my mother too. Please. Inside the room, everyone looked at one another. Gabriel seemed like he wanted to say something but held it back. And in the end, Marco said coldly to me, It doesn't have to come to this. Auntie is obviously fine. What exactly are you trying to pull here? Get out now, and I can still let this go. Otherwise, there will be no possibility between us, even at a time like this. He was still talking to me about our relationship. Did he even have a heart? In the end, I was thrown out of the hospital room. Before the door closed, I looked at Marco in utter despair, with bitter self-mockery and burning hatred. I said, Marco, do you know what? I regret bringing you home back then. I regret everything that ever happened between us. If anything happens to my mom, I will never forgive you. Marco's heart gave a violent shudder. He had never seen me this resolute before. Every word I said made his breathing grow heavier. How could I regret it? He thought back to that year when he had nothing. I had descended like an angel and reached out a hand of salvation to him. I had given him the only warmth in the world, had given him the hope to keep going. And now, I had suddenly taken that hand back. As he watched my lonely figure walk away, he clenched his fists. He thought, I'm just angry. Once his teacher's wife was safe, he would go and apologize to me. He would make my mother forgive him too. After all, the two of us, mother and daughter, were both easy to coax. So Marco closed the door. The moment I heard the door shut, the final string in my mind snapped. I collapsed to the ground, unconscious. When I woke up again, I was lying in a hospital bed. The moment I remembered that my mother was in surgery, I immediately threw off the blanket and tried to get up. The doctor pressed me back down. Don't move. In your current condition, you can't make any sudden movements. It was Dr. Alex. My mom, Auntie, she still hasn't woken up. I let out a breath of relief. It was only then that I felt like I could breathe again. I lowered my head and cried silently. I'm sorry. I understand you. Your mother is a remarkable woman. I had seen her before. I looked at Alex in surprise, but I had no memory of him. He was handsome, yes, but completely unfamiliar. Still, there was something very approachable in the way he carried himself. I asked him, "Can I go see my mom? The medicine in your mother's system hasn't worn off yet." My teacher got there in the end, but unfortunately, the delay was too long. My teacher could only barely keep your mother from dying on the operating table. But my heart clenched. Thank you all. I knew why my mother had ended up like this. It wasn't the hospital's fault. It was Marco. At the thought of Marco, I hated him so much I nearly ground my teeth to pieces. I had thought it through very clearly. From now on, he would take his road, and I would take mine. I would never have anything to do with him again. Chapter 9. In the middle of the night, I slept in a hazy daze. In my dream, I had gone back to the time when I first picked Marco up. I stood off to the side, looking at him coldly. Marco had been so pitiful. But in my dream, I clearly remembered how hateful he was now. I said to him, "Marco, I don't want you anymore." Suddenly, someone grabbed my wrist. Through the pain, I met Marco's eyes. A chill lingered in his breath as he said, "What did you just say?" I silently pulled my arm back, with nothing to say. I had thought he came to see my mother. But he did not ask a single question about her. He only said, "It's because Auntie indulged you in making such a scene that you fainted. Diana, can you stop fighting with me? I'm already exhausted. Try to persuade Auntie not to make things difficult for Selena and teacher's wife. They're both innocent. If Auntie keeps this attitude, I probably won't be coming to your house anymore." I said coldly, "You don't need to come to my house. I have nothing to do with you." Marco said angrily, "What exactly are you so bothered about? There's nothing wrong with your mother. The one lying in bed is teacher's wife, okay?" I looked up at him in shock, just about to tell him the truth. Then Marco's phone rang. He hesitated for a moment, then said to me, "Get some good rest. I'll come see you again at dawn." I said coldly, "No need. I don't need you." He clenched his fists, saying nothing. I lay there weakly, thinking, whatever. Anyway, I would not look at him again. After suffering through more than half an hour, I felt terribly anxious. I took out my phone and glanced at it. Selena had posted a new update on Moments. In the photo, Marco was serving tea to Selena's mother. Looking at the picture of motherly kindness and filial devotion, I let out a mocking laugh. My mother had given so much for Marco. Yet she had not even received a cup of plain water from him. Sure enough, both my mother and I had terrible eyesight. A few seconds later, Selena posted a photo of herself wearing a ring. In the picture, 2 hands were clasped tightly together. When I saw the caption, I could not help laughing. I laughed until I cried. That ring was the wedding band I had personally designed, hiding Marco's name and mine inside it. He had actually given it to Selena without my consent. I suddenly felt that I was a joke. A complete joke from beginning to end. WeChat chimed. Anyone who had me on WeChat also had Selena. By now, everyone had started to figure things out, one after another. They asked me what was going on. I replied, "It's exactly what you all saw. We broke up." Without waiting for any replies, I deleted Selena, deleted Marco, and deleted everything related to him. Then I lay on the bed, numb and cold. After I finally finished the 4-drip, Alex finally came over to tell me that my mother was about to wake up. I got to my feet in excitement and almost fell. With helpless resignation, Alex brought me in a wheelchair to see my mother. But on the way, we ran into Selena. I ignored her. She looked at me with a complicated expression and took a photo of our backs. Chapter 10. The moment I saw Mom again, my heart trembled. In just one day, she seemed to have withered far more than a little. Her face was so terribly pale that just one glance was enough to stab pain through me. So much that I could barely bear to look at her. And yet I couldn't bear not to, because I understood that every look now was the last look. Mom. Mom? My lips moved as I called out to her. I was so afraid that even my breathing might disturb the balance of the machines. Mom's eyelashes trembled a few times, and she slowly opened her eyes. My tears fell uncontrollably. The oxygen mask blocked her words. And when her fingers twitched, I carefully took her hand into mine. She looked at me with loving eyes. Yet there was also a trace of heartache in them. But clearly, the anesthetic had only just worn off. Her mind should not have become lucid this quickly. And yet, the very first thing she did when she saw me was ache for me. I choked on my sobs. Mom, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I don't like Marco anymore. Really, I hate him now. I wished I could kill him. It was just that I didn't have the ability. Alex checked the monitor, then said softly, "Say your last few words with Auntie." He gently removed Mom's oxygen mask. Mom took a few deep breaths. Once she had calmed down, she spoke to me with difficulty. "Diana, don't hate. Just be yourself. Mom is going to keep your dad company. I miss him." Mom's tears fell, and I cried just as helplessly. "Mom, but I miss you too. I can't." My voice caught in my throat. I couldn't let Mom leave with worries. I had to let her go in peace. "Diana, go love someone else. Don't love." I nodded frantically, almost desperately. It felt as though all the love I had once given Marco had now turned into slaps, one after another, striking my own face. Marco was my retribution. Get married. Get married. Mom stubbornly held onto my hand, her eyes fixed straight on me. Alex came over, glanced at the monitor a few times, then suddenly took both Mom's hand and mine into his. His tone was sincere. "Auntie, my name is Alex. I'm 30 years old. I don't have a girlfriend. I have no bad habits. And I own a car and a home. Your husband once helped me before. And I've always liked Diana. If you don't mind, I'll take your place and continue taking care of Diana." Mom's gaze fell on Alex. For a moment, her eyes cleared. "I remember, Alex. Diana is a good girl. I'll treat Diana well. After we register our marriage, I'll show you the marriage certificate, okay?" Mom was satisfied. She looked at me with a smile. "Burn a copy of the marriage certificate for me and your dad. He must want to see you and his son-in-law too." Then Mom had us take out the ring on my hand and the ring hanging from her neck on a cord. "You and Diana, one each. Live well. Diana, my Diana. Mom can't bear to leave." As she spoke, her voice faded away. Tears slid down her face. It felt as though my heart had been cut open. Mom, no." And then I completely blacked out. Chapter 11. When I woke up again, it was still Alex keeping watch over me. I opened my mouth, only to realize that no sound would come out of my throat anymore. "Don't speak. You injured your throat yesterday. Now, Diana, listen to me." Alex looked at me seriously and took out an ID card. The household register, the property deed, the car registration, the passbook, and other documents. "I've already helped send Auntie to the funeral home. The cremation is tomorrow. Diana, you should fulfill Auntie's final wish. Don't worry. I'm not taking advantage of you while you're vulnerable. I just don't want to disappoint Auntie. She was such a good person." My tears fell. Alex said my father had once helped him, but he and I were basically strangers. And yet a stranger, in just one day, knew that my mother was a very good person. But Marco thought both my mother and I were vicious. Thinking of my mother's dying wish, I looked at Alex and said in a hoarse voice, "Alex, I was in a terrible relationship before. I have to tell you about it, but I can guarantee you that I have no lingering attachment to my ex. I hate him now." Of course, my mother didn't want me to hate him. "So from now on, I'll just treat him like a stranger. So if you marry me, I will treat you well." Beyond that, I could think of nothing else to say. Alex let out a helpless sigh. "What are you thinking? I'm not doing this for." "Never mind. I'll just wait for you to treat me well in the future." He took me to the marriage registry office. Luckily, registration no longer required the household register now. After we got the marriage certificate and made copies of it, Alex took me to the market to buy the things needed to send Mom off. He seemed to know a lot about these matters. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know what to do, other than saying thank you. I seemed to have no idea what else to say to him. Alex sighed helplessly again and reached out to rub my head. Never say thank you to me. I'm the one who should be thanking you. I looked at him in surprise. Suddenly, a cold, sharp voice cut through the atmosphere between us. What are you doing? I turned around and saw Marco. My face instantly turned cold. Looking at him, my teeth chattered from the chill. Alex shielded me and said to Marco, "May I ask if you need something?" "Who the hell are you? Is it any of your business?" "I'm looking for my girlfriend." "What's it to you?" Alex looked Marco up and down with a serious, disgusted gaze. He gave a vague smile, which provoked Marco into wanting to make a move. Of course, I could not just stand there and watch him go after Alex. I immediately walked over and asked coldly, "What do you want with me? I remember we already have nothing to do with each other." Marco pulled me aside. Only after glaring at Alex did he speak to me. "Why did you block me? Why did you delete my phone number? Why did you even delete my friends from your contacts? They're all things I don't need anymore. If I don't delete them, what am I supposed to keep them for? To disgust myself?" "Marco, don't think so highly of yourself. I don't want you anymore. Do you understand?" Marco breathed heavily a few times, then lowered his voice and said, "Diana, what exactly is wrong with you? I won't hold it against you for finding some man like this to provoke me, and I won't hold it against you for lying either. I saw Auntie's report. It's just a stomach problem. Nothing serious. Has Auntie already gone home now? What are you doing here with this man?" I let out a laugh, and tears fell first. "Marco, you really are disgusting." Marco's pupils contracted. He opened his mouth but could not say a single word. My naked disgust had struck him hard. Something in his heart was slipping away at a speed he could not stop. He wanted desperately to hold on to it. So he said to me, "Why, you just need to make some soup for teacher's wife, and I'll put in a good word for you and Auntie. They're not the kind of people who hold grudges. They'll forgive you in the future. Teacher's wife will also be our mother." I could not bear it any longer. I raised my hand and slapped Marco with all my strength. "I don't have a mother anymore. I never will again. Are you satisfied now?" "Marco, back then I should have let you rot. You deserve to be alone for the rest of your life. Get out!" I shoved him hard. He staggered from the force and slammed into the wall beside him. I turned around and left with Alex, without looking at Marco again. At that moment, Marco was panicking. He vaguely sensed that something might really have happened to my mother, but how could he dare admit it? If he admitted it, then it meant he had blocked off my mother's only path to survival. Marco said in a flustered voice, "No, that can't be. Definitely not, Diana. She's just too obsessed with me, right? As long as I stop Auntie's social security payments, Diana will definitely lower her head to me." Mom's social security payments were her monthly source of income. If they were cut off, they would have no choice but to bow their heads. Marco seemed to have grabbed onto a lifeline and immediately called one of his old comrades. After hanging up, Marco lowered his eyes and stared at the ground. In a low voice, he said, "Diana, I will definitely marry you. How can you regret it? How can you not want me?" But those words scattered with the wind. Not a single one reached my ears. Chapter 12. After finishing Mom's funeral, when I went to cancel her household registration, I also went to Social Security to withdraw the remaining balance from her account. I wanted to use that money to bury Mom and Dad together, but they told me that Mom's Social Security account had been frozen. The very first person I thought of was Marco. I was already disappointed beyond the limit. I didn't even know what kind of reaction I could still have toward him anymore. When Alex found out, he promised to help me find someone to deal with it. I was very grateful to him, and I told him, "It's okay, I still have some money. It should be enough. If it isn't, I'll just borrow a little more." I didn't want to go beg Marco, because that would stain the road of reincarnation for my parents. Alex was very busy, and I felt embarrassed to keep troubling him all the time. But on the days when my parents' graves were being relocated, he deliberately took time off to come help me. That day, When Alex and I were coming out of the residential complex, we ran into Marco. Marco looked at Alex and me coming out from the same place, and his eyes instantly turned red. You actually brought him home to meet your mother? Diana, even if you're putting on a show, there should be a limit. I didn't want to say a single word to him today. My mood was already terrible, and the moment I saw him, I instinctively felt sick. Alex stepped in front of Marco. Sir, enough is enough. Since you already chose someone else, then stop disturbing Diana. Diana will also have a new life. Marco let out a cold laugh and looked at Alex as though he were trash. What do you know? Diana loved me for 10 years. You know nothing, and yet you think you can judge our relationship? Do you deserve to? Diana, once Selena's job is stable, I'll divorce her. Don't worry. I won't make you wait too long. I turned and walked away immediately. When I heard Marco mention those 10 years, I only felt as if I had fed them to a dog. No, Marco was worse than a dog. He was a wolf cub that could never be tamed. When Alex saw that Marco kept harassing me, he suggested that I move into his place for now. I thought Alex had already helped me so much that I really should honor my promise and take good care of him. But I had never once thought of holding him back from anything. If one day he met someone he truly liked, I could divorce him immediately. I was genuinely grateful to him. What I wanted now was only for my parents to be laid to rest in peace. Chapter 13. Marco had been very upset lately. He could not find me. No matter what channel he used, he could not find me. At social gatherings, if anyone brought me up, he would lose his temper. Then someone suddenly asked about my mother's funeral, and Marco froze for a moment. He immediately got into a fight with that person and said he was talking nonsense. Everyone looked at him with complicated expressions. Marco was terribly flustered, but tomorrow was his wedding with Selena. The more it approached, the less he could feel at ease. Selena even asked him, Marco, tomorrow is our wedding. Will Diana come? Is she still angry? I can apologize to her. At that time, I really thought my mother was dying. I was just too scared. Selena started crying again, but this time, Marco did not comfort her. He only said coldly, Diana isn't that kind of petty person. She should come. Marco had no confidence. He could not wait for me at my house. He had called me countless times, and not a single one went through. He sent me messages saying that as long as I showed up tomorrow, the bride would be me. But who cared? Even if I saw those words, I would only feel disgusted. He was panicking so badly that, in the end, he personally went to the hospital to check the surveillance footage from that day. Only then did he discover that after they left, my mother had been sent into the operating room, and he found my mother's examination results: acute heart disease. My mother's heart had long since become unbearably fragile because of my father's death. These past years, if it had not been for her wish to see me start a family, perhaps she would not have been able to hold on any longer. She simply had not shown it in front of me. When Marco clearly saw that my mother's medical record stated, confirmed deceased, his head buzzed violently. Everything in front of his eyes turned blurry, and he went temporarily blind for a moment. Sir, are you all right? I want to see Monica's medical record, Marco said urgently. Because the hospital director had given instructions, the doctor still helped pull up the record. The record clearly stated, no physical abnormalities. Follow-up recommended. For a moment, Marco's ears rang. The faces of Selena and her mother appeared together with the faces of my mother and me. But he could no longer find the feeling he once had. He could no longer deceive himself. He hardly dared imagine how desperate I must have been after losing my mother. Diana. I was wrong. Diana, where are you? Marco slapped himself hard across the face, crying so hard he could not control himself. Suddenly, his phone rang. Marco saw that it was Selena, and he immediately hung up. A few seconds later, Monica called, and this time, Marco did not answer either. He only hung up coldly and blocked her. Monica and Selena both panicked. Mom, nothing's going to happen, right? What could happen? You've already gotten the marriage certificate. Now all you need to do is hold the wedding. Once it's a done deal, nothing can be changed anymore. But the uneasiness in Selena's heart kept growing. She said worriedly, Mom, Do you think Marco might find out about that? A flash of coldness passed through Monica's eyes as she said coldly, "Of course he won't know. He will never know." Chapter 14. On the third day, Selena was wearing a wedding dress, and the house was full of guests. Every single one of them was congratulating her, saying that she had finally made it through the hard times. They also praised Marco for knowing how to repay kindness. Monica smiled calmly, looking every bit like a widow who had finally endured long enough to see brighter days. But no matter how long they waited, Marco never came. Selena grew anxious, and even Monica could no longer keep her composure. In the end, Monica tearfully complained to the media friends she had called over. It must be that childhood sweetheart of Marco's causing trouble. Just because she helped him before, she's using it to force him to marry her. But the only person Marco loves is my Selena. Back then, my husband lost his life trying to save Marco. Even if it's about repaying a debt, he still can't just fail to show up. Those media friends were filled with righteous indignation. One of them immediately posted on Weibo under the title, "A third party interferes in a military marriage." Very quickly, the post was reposted everywhere. People dug up my personal information and began calling me with malicious harassment. I answered a few calls before realizing I had been doxxed. At the wedding, Selena cried pitifully. Facing the cameras, she said, "Diana, Marco really only wants to take care of me. Please let him come back. I wouldn't mind if he took care of you too." Everyone commented that Selena was far too kind. Some even dug up the old story about how Selena's father had once saved Marco. My heart sank. If Selena's father was the one who saved Marco, then what had my father been? Only then did I realize that the reason Dad had never been officially recognized as a martyr all these years was because Selena's father had interfered behind the scenes. I wanted to find the people from back then and get the truth, but it was too difficult. 10 years had already passed. Everything had changed. Still, persistence paid off in the end. I finally found the evidence. When I returned to the old house to retrieve Mom's photographs and keepsakes, I found Dad's autopsy report from after the incident, and an old videotape. Back then, Mom had tried to hand those things over to someone else, but Monica's people secretly stopped her, because Selena's father had also died in that fire. After Marco fell unconscious, he never knew who had actually saved him, so Monica pinned the life-saving favor on Selena's father instead. And the video of Dad saving Marco happened to have been recorded by a photographer. He later gave it to Mom as evidence, but Mom had no connections, and no one cared what she had to say. As for Dad, they only ruled that he had died because he improperly used force in the course of duty. It wasn't considered a sacrifice, only death in the line of duty. When I saw Marco standing outside the door, I handed him the recorded video. It had only been a few days since I'd seen him, but he already looked haggard. How could this be? After watching the video, Marco completely broke down. All this time, he had been trying to repay a debt, but from the very beginning, he had been repaying the wrong people. My eyes filled with tears, and I felt that Dad had saved the wrong person, and I had loved the wrong person too. Diana, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Panic surged through Marco. Fear slowly rose from deep inside him. He had not married Selena. He wanted to win me back. So these past few days, he had been having a ring custom made. Now, Marco knelt on the floor and took out a matching pair of rings exactly like the ones I had once designed. "Diana, do you remember this ring?" We said back then. "I don't want it anymore. If you want that thing, keep it. If you don't, throw it away. I don't even want you anymore. So why would some ring catch my eye?" I coldly cut off Marco's attempt to win me back. Marco clung tightly around my waist and pressed his forehead against me. His whole body was trembling as he said, "Diana, I really didn't mean it. Please forgive me, okay?" When he saw that I ignored him and only turned my face away, his voice shook. I'll definitely get justice for your father. I won't let Selena's family get away with this." I lowered my head and looked carefully at the boy I had once loved. Now, although his outline still overlapped with the figure in my memories, they were no longer the same person. Just like that ring on the floor, fallen and falsified, he had long since become false too. "Diana, please don't ignore me, okay? I'll give you an answer. Will you forgive me?" By the end, he sounded incredibly cautious. My eyes were icy. I shoved him away with all my strength. Then I pointed to Mom's photograph on the table. I don't have a mother anymore. As for you, if you want me to forgive you, fine, bring my mother back to life. Do you still remember? You were the one who caused my mother's death with your own hands. Marco had no defense. In a hoarse voice, he said, the dead can't come back to life. I'll take Auntie's place and take care of you, Diana. But I shook my head. My mother's dying wish was for me to stay far away from you. Marco collapsed onto the floor, dejected, powerless and broken. He said, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? Would my death be enough? I'll pay for Auntie's life with mine. My voice was sharp with hatred. What do you think you are? Even if you died, I still wouldn't forgive you. I'd curse you so you could never reincarnate. Get out! Hatred without love behind it was so pure that it made Marco shudder. I shoved Marco out the door with all my strength and threw the ring after him. I wanted neither him nor any of it. Then I slammed the door shut, just as resolutely as he had slammed the hospital room door back then. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Diana, you can't stop wanting me. From beginning to end, the only person I've ever loved was you. But did he really think his love was something precious? Even if it were precious, I did not want it. Marco knew his mistake could never be undone. A vicious glint flashed through his eyes. All of it was Selena and her mother's fault. He was going to take revenge. Chapter 15. Alex reported Marco for abusing his power and interfering with doctors treating a patient, which resulted in the patient's failed rescue and death. Marco was suspended pending investigation, and he also posted a statement on Weibo. He recounted our relationship and said a great many things. Then he released the video from back then. He also reported Monica for fraud and other offenses. Very soon, Monica came under investigation. Selena was terrified. After searching for a long time, she finally found Marco. Marco, why are you treating my mother like that? We've been pretty good to you all these years, haven't we? Marco only found it laughable. Haven't I treated you well all these years? I even treated you better than I treated Diana and her mother. How could you bear to lie to me like this? Don't come looking for me again. I've already filed a lawsuit for marriage fraud. We'll be getting divorced very soon. I'm going to marry Diana. Diana doesn't like seeing you. Selena laughed like a madwoman. No way. Marco, are you seriously still hoping Diana would want you? Marco grabbed Selena by the throat in one swift motion. His eyes red as he said, you're asking to die. Yet Selena struggled and said, haha, fine. Let's die together then. Do you know this? Diana's mother knew that my father stole everything from Diana's father, but no one believed her. After she found out Diana had fallen in love with you, she couldn't bear to make things difficult for you. So she actually chose not to tell you. And she didn't even know that my father stole her husband's credit. She really was stupid. She deserved to die for being so stupid. Those words drove Marco over the edge. Marco nearly lost his mind and tightened his grip around Selena's neck, as if Selena were some vile, poisonous thing. As long as you're gone, Diana will definitely forgive me. Selena shot Marco a contemptuous look. Suddenly, many people burst into the room. The police stepped forward and restrained Marco, saying, Marco, you are under arrest for suspected abuse of power to harm the rights of others, and also on suspicion of murder. By the time I learned of this, Marco was already in prison, but I did not care. Mom's social security card finally worked again, and Dad was posthumously honored as well. I buried Dad and Mom together. Alex stayed by my side the whole time. He did not try to comfort me with words. He only gave me a solid embrace whenever I was sad. When I could not sleep, he brought me a cup of hot milk. He even held my hand whenever I felt lost. Alex looked at me with love in his eyes and said to me, Diana, our future has only just begun. You can miss the past, but you must not drown in it. Your life deserves to shine too. People online were very kind to me now. They all felt that it was not worth it for me, but I did not care what people online thought. I only knew that my life will definitely keep getting better and better. Chapter 16. Marco's perspective. I was finally released from prison. The first thing I did after getting out was go look for Diana, but the old house had already changed hands. She had sold it. After a long investigation, I finally found out where she and Alex lived. Every day. Fully covered up. I deliberately made sure to cross paths with her from a distance. In just 5 years. She had changed a lot. Though I suppose 5 years isn't short at all. For me. Those 5 years felt like an eternity. My hair had already turned gray. And Diana was still as beautiful as ever. There was a mature grace about her now. She was holding the hand of a little girl. And that child was just as adorable as Diana had been when she was small. The girl always acted spoiled in that soft, sweet way that made people's hearts melt. Diana smiled and kissed the child on the cheek. I thought to myself that if we had never broken up, our child might have been about that age too. But there are no ifs. Diana and I were separated forever by the stupidity of who I used to be. It was me. I was the one who buried her love for me with my own hands. And now, I could never love anyone again, nor could I ever receive anyone's love again, although I sent Monica to prison. And although Selena got what she deserved, my life still seemed to have no meaning, so I turned and left. And after I left, Diana looked in my direction. There was a trace of confusion in her eyes, but much more indifference, because Alex had come to pick the two of them up. The three of them, one happy family, went home together. After seeing Diana, I felt like my last wish had been fulfilled. No matter how miserable I became, Diana didn't care anymore. I didn't want to rely on pity or misery to make Diana forgive me, so I decided to head for the borderlands and volunteer as a forest ranger. And once I started, I stayed there for 10 years. During an avalanche, while trying to protect a tourist, I was buried beneath the snow. In my final moment, I saw Diana, the Diana who was 10 years old. And I was back again at 15, at the time when everyone had abandoned me. Only this time, Diana didn't reach out her hand to me. She only gave me a cold glance, and turned away. I opened my mouth, but in the end I didn't call out to stop her. I thought, maybe this was for the best. In this life, Diana no longer had me in it. Maybe her path would be smoother because of that. I hope Diana will never meet me again. I am willing never to be reborn. This is not atonement. It is simply that I deserve this punishment.